Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jenny, and today we're doing a very special bonus episode for our podiversary.
Yay! Happy 1-year anniversary.
Happy 1-year anniversary. I'm so proud of us and so happy that we're here.
Me too. We did it.
We did it.
This was our goal, guys. When we first started the podcast, we said, let's do it consistently every week for a year and then see how we feel. I feel like we're just getting better. We're just getting started, really.
I could not imagine life without having this to look forward to every week.
Me too.
I'm so grateful to you, and I'm also so grateful to you, the listeners, for being around, because you guys keep us going. Like, we love getting messages from you and talking to you guys and getting to know you better.
Me too. I'm so grateful that we have the podcast. I'm so grateful that we get to do it together. It has been so much fun and such a good creative outlet, and I just appreciate you so much. I know you put so much work into it, so.
And you as well.
Oh, thanks.
How often is it that you have an idea to do something with a friend and then you guys actually follow through on it? I feel like never.
In my experience, never until now.
I'm glad I found someone as type A about these kind of things as you, because I feel like we both get hyperfixated on things we're passionate about, and we're both very passionate about movies and talking about them and just girly things, so it's really nice.
Yeah, agreed. It's been lovely. Quick disclaimer at the top, there's construction happening all around my building. So if you hear the background noise, apologies. As another way to celebrate, we made a little playlist for you guys. It's on Spotify, and it includes a couple of our favorite and the most iconic songs from the soundtracks of every single movie and TV show that we've covered on the podcast so far.
It makes me feel so good to listen to, and I know you guys are going to love listening to it too. It's just going to put you in a really good mood.
If you go to the What We're Watching podcast page on Spotify and you click More Like This, it'll come right up, so enjoy.
We'll link it in the episode description too, so you have easy access.
I'm so excited for this episode because we're going to be answering all of the questions that you guys sent to us. Thank you so much for sending so many questions and being so interested. It's going to be really fun.
Honestly, we didn't think anyone would have any questions for us at all.
I know. But I also realized we've never talked about ourselves really on the podcast. I mean, little things here and there about our partners or where we live, but very little about our relationship or how we prep for the podcast or how we got into it, all of the things that you guys asked about. So I'm excited we get a chance to do it.
Yeah, me too. And you'll have to let us know. I think we try to not talk too much about ourselves because we don't want to bore anybody. But if you guys are interested, maybe we'll have to have some of these more often in the future so you can get to know us a little bit better and then we can actually be besties.
I would love that. So we got a couple of questions about how we met and how we became friends. Do you want to tell the story?
I feel like you might be better at telling this story because you are the first person who experienced everything.
Oh, that's true. That's so true. I was like, how? So we both moved to Denver during the pandemic, and my now husband, at the time boyfriend, Brian, and I were trying to make new friends, and we made some friends with some people living in Denver that had just moved there that went to the same college as we did. We didn't know them at the time, but it was a good kind of meeting point, and one of them was a coworker of Brian's, and we went on a hike with them. And one of the people that we went on the hike with was Robert.
Robert, my fiance, but then boyfriend.
And I remember him on that hike being like, you would have really liked my girlfriend, Jenny. I wish that you would have come, but she just wasn't going to be into this. Guys, this was the worst hike I've ever been on in my whole life. It was so hard. And the whole time I was like, yeah, I bet we would be friends because I shouldn't have come on this stupid hike.
And I just remember, when we moved to Denver, we really didn't have any friends yet. And so I was so excited when Robert came home and said, oh my gosh, you would have really liked Megan. She just seemed very similar to you. And then I believe we did go out to drinks very soon after that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the four of us, and we clicked right away.
Yep.
So as you do when you really want to become friends with someone, I added Megan on Instagram. And I saw in her Instagram bio that she put writer in the bio. And I am someone who has always been a nerdy writer, but always kept it to myself, I guess, because I don't know, it was not a cool thing to talk about when I was growing up. And so I was like, oh my gosh, Robert, she's a writer. And then I was doing this thing at the time where I was like, anytime I got social anxiety about saying something to someone, I would be like, how would I react if someone said the same thing to me? And so I almost didn't message you, but then I did text you, and I think I said, hey, I just saw that you're a writer. I'm a writer too. And I got nerdy with you about it.
Which made me so happy, because for the record, same. I didn't want to tell anybody that I wanted to be a writer. I was like just starting to pursue freelance writing, which ended up becoming my business and my job, but it was new to me. And one of my friends was like, oh, you need to start like claiming it instead of like being scared to tell people what you like and what you want. And so I had just put it, I think, that week in my Instagram bio. And then for Jeni to text me, it was just very serendipitous and lovely.
Yay.
And then we tried to do NaNoWriMo together, like right after.
I think I lasted 1 day. How about you?
I also did not get very far. I think I wrote like 10 pages, but it was fun to like find a friend that was interested in the same creative things, because I don't think I had any friends like that before you. Like I had met people through different classes and work and things that like were creative or had like similar hobbies, but like that's not the reason that we were friends. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was new. It was great.
Yeah, it was so nice. And it is funny because I think that people in real life, when they find out that we have only been friends for the past 4 years, they're shocked because they think that we were childhood besties.
I know, which just makes me, every time someone says it to me, it makes me happy.
I think at this point, because I've met all of your childhood friends and your family, and every week we talk about our childhoods on the podcast, I do feel like I've been your friend for forever.
Oh, me too. So great. And I felt like that. I feel like from the get, I feel like we just like got along, in a different way. Which was amazing.
We did. It's so special to find a friend like you, so I'm so grateful.
Me too. Okay, so the next couple questions we got are about our involvement in like film and movies. So the first one is, you guys sometimes talk about film classes. Are either of you in film school or did you go? And the other question was, are you guys in the movie industry? Love your pod. Just started and already caught up.
I cannot believe you caught up on a year of episodes.
I know.
That's so great.
That's really nice. The short answer is no, we're not involved in the movie industry or the film industry at all, really.
No, and I think why people ask this is because we often talk about the screenwriting classes that we've taken together.
Yep.
So that is kind of what launched our friendship too, I think, is we started taking screenwriting classes together, and we also took some classes with like producers and just kind of learned a little bit more about how movies get made. Mm-hmm. And that was more of just a hobby thing. It wasn't us really like being involved in the industry. Although I think at one point you did talk about wanting to go to school for it.
I did, yeah. That I did.
Things change. I will say that I have not been writing, really. Ever since we started the podcast, I feel like the podcast has become more of my focus and more of my creative outlet than writing. But I do always come back to writing eventually, so we'll see.
Me too. Yeah, me too. And before we took screenwriting classes, when I was living in Atlanta, I was taking like on-camera acting classes because I grew up doing theater. And so similarly, just out of hobby, I feel like then you meet people that are working in that industry, and you have teachers that have worked in that industry for a long time, and you just end up like picking up little nuggets about how things work just peripherally. So I feel like that's where we get any sort of background knowledge, is from that type of thing.
And that's what got you interested in screenwriting in the first place, right? Was acting?
Yep, doing all my acting classes, and then the pandemic hit and we moved, and I just kind of realized I've been acting forever, and I didn't realize really much about all the other jobs that are involved in the film industry until I was taking an acting class with a bunch of working actors and with teachers that had been in movies and been in TV shows, and hearing them explain more about what directors do and screenwriters and producers and, the crew and everybody. It just made me more interested, I think, in learning about other creative areas that are involved, and found writing. Also, it was like the only thing you could do during the pandemic.
True.
Yeah.
And it was a very fun outlet. We both wrote feature scripts, so that's movie scripts. And we also started writing TV show scripts, too. We both wrote a pilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I want to get back into it. But like you said, this podcast has just kind of filled that void for me, for the time being, at least.
Yeah, one day. I do feel like I've learned a lot from getting to break down the plot and the characters of so many movies.
Yeah.
That I am interested when and if I return back to screenwriting, how that kind of informs things and changes my approach to it.
Totally.
And then we got the question, what made you guys want to start a podcast?
I think just that we love movies and that this is all we talked about.
We loved talking about the fun facts behind movies and shows.
Yes, that's true. I think one of our commonalities was like we would come out of a movie and then immediately Google everything about every person that was in the movie and how it got made and when it came out and all the, all the things. And I think realizing that we both nerded out over that and then would talk about it like out with our friends and stuff, it just, naturally became a conversation.
But what's funny is we did have this conversation for probably 2 years. Is that right? 2 years before we actually started the podcast.
Yes. It was a brainchild for a long time. There were many Pinterest boards, shared Google Docs.
Previous names.
Yes. Until we actually did it.
Yeah. It was one of those things that people would tell us probably every time they saw us together. So when are you starting your podcast?
Yeah.
And then we actually did, which is amazing.
If any of you guys are in that position, cannot recommend just starting enough. It's going to feel like weird and cringe and imperfect for a while, but it's so worth it, I think.
Yeah, and nobody will be listening to the cringe except for the people who know you really well, if you choose to share it with them. And I highly recommend you do because it's very freeing. I'm someone who's very reserved and I don't want anyone to know anything embarrassing about my hobbies. So telling people that I have a podcast is like very cringy to me even now, but I highly recommend just sharing what you're interested in and what you do with people because they actually don't care at the end of the day.
And people are very interested and excited for you.
Yeah.
The next question is, how do you prep for episodes?
How don't we prep for episodes? I feel like a lot goes into it, actually.
We choose a movie, step one, which sometimes comes from requests from you guys. Sometimes it comes from requests in real life from people that we meet. Sometimes it just is our favorite movie or it's seasonal. Like if it's Halloween time, we'll look specifically at, movies that happen in that season. And then we watch it. Sometimes watch it multiple times. One of us, we usually take turns outlining the actual movie for the recap part. And then we both do research on the cast. And we have a shared outline that we use for every episode.
And that's pretty much it, really. But it takes a lot more time than you would think, funnily enough. Outlining a movie takes me forever.
Me too. I know I've started to not be able to watch it with anybody because I'm just pausing every 3 minutes to be like, I gotta write this quote, go back.
Yeah.
But it's so fun still to get to revisit all of them and, it doesn't feel like work.
No, it is so much fun.
What's been your favorite episode so far?
Oh my gosh, you start first because I actually need to think about this one.
Okay. I have a few. 2 that come to mind right away are 10 Things I Hate About You and When Harry Met Sally, just because I think those are 2 movies that I had never seen before doing them for the podcast, and they were probably my 2 favorites of all the ones that I haven't seen.
Aww.
So not even really to do with the episode at all, but just I liked getting to watch those, so that they make me happy. I loved doing Jennifer's Body because that was our first guest episode where we had Shannon from Fluently Forward on, and she was one of our newer friends at the time. And she had a huge platform, and just for her to be able or be willing to come on and teach us a couple little tricks and stuff was really fun. And we got to record it with her in person.
And we were already a fan of the podcast too, so it kind of felt like a surreal moment.
Totally. Yeah, it was the second month we were doing ours, and we had 20 listeners, and Shannon was like, I'm happy to come on. It was so nice.
It was so kind of her, and it was a really fun episode too, because I love that movie.
And then I would say all the Halloween eps from last year. I just love we talked about this a lot last year, but getting to really experience the seasons because we're watching all of the favorite nostalgic movies from that season and then talking about them was just really a really fun thing. I'm excited to do it again this year.
Oh, me too. Halloween is my favorite season, and I just remember having so much fun with that entire month of episodes. It was so great. I think my favorite episode so far to record was the Lizzie McGuire movie. And that's because I remember we were just so unhinged. We were on one.
That's true. That was our most unhinged episode. I forgot.
We were just delirious, I feel like, the whole time. And we had been batching a lot of episodes because we were having vacations and things like that. So I just remember that was we had done so many episodes over the past month.
I think it was late too. I feel like it was 10 p.m. or something.
Yeah, it was 10 p.m. We were tired and we were just okay, we don't care if it's perfect anymore. We're just gonna, let loose and be us. And it was really fun.
It's a good one. We ended up talking about Build-A-Bear After Dark. So would highly recommend that episode.
I remember just telling Robert afterwards, that episode was so wild. I don't know what we were doing, but it was so fun.
Good one, yeah.
Then we got the question, what movie that you've covered so far aged the worst? and then which one aged the best.
Do you have any immediate thoughts?
Worst, Couples Retreat.
Agreed.
I actually had a really hard time being objective on that one. And, you know, when we do the podcast, I don't ever want to be overly negative because usually we all have nostalgic feelings towards these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if it's something that I don't feel nostalgic towards, I don't ever want to tear down somebody's favorite movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Couples Retreat, I just feel like did not age very well. It was still an enjoyable watch, and I thought the cast was so fun. But yeah, I think that was the worst. How about you?
Agreed. I completely agree. Special mention to some of our favorites, but Mean Girls, I feel like, and Devil Wears Prada both had the like running Mean Girl weight jokes, which I don't love, but I agree. Couples Retreat, I think, was the worst. Best? What aged the best, do you think? I think there's probably a lot.
Probably a lot, yeah. What do you think?
Thankfully, I think a lot of the kid, movies that are geared more towards kids and teens aged pretty well. There was not a lot of content in a lot of those that like could age that poorly. One that comes to mind for me is The Parent Trap, because I think they could have done a lot with the whole Meredith Blake sort of like age gap, mean girl, sort of dad dating the new young girl, that could have aged really poorly that I just think they didn't include, which is nice.
That's a great one.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
I would also say the Princess Diaries aged really well.
Agreed. Definitely. Okay, the next question we got was a little bit of a comment, but I really like it. It says, I would be interested to have you interview a guest that was part of any of the movies you cover. I think we would love that too.
And kind of to go along with that, we had the question, if you could have one celebrity on your pod, who would it be? What a great question.
I mean, Taylor Swift.
Oh, you're going big. Okay, yeah, I like that.
But related to the movies, probably Hilary Duff.
I was thinking the same. The same. She would be so sweet. I would throw up if she was on our podcast.
Oh, I would never recover.
But going back to the comment that you would be interested to have us interview a guest that was part of the movies we cover, I was thinking of two guests who would be really fun to have. Karen McCullough and Kirsten Smith would be amazing to have on the podcast because we have covered so many of their movies. And if you guys aren't familiar with them, they are a screenwriting duo who wrote Legally Blonde. They wrote 10 Things I Hate About You, many, many more, House Bunny. Mm-hmm. And I just think it would be so cool to hear their insights and get to learn from them a little bit.
Agreed. The next question is, when will you be doing Raise Your Voice? Shout out, Julie.
Yeah, shout out to Julie. We met her in person, and it was so cool to meet a listener in person, and we felt like we were besties right away. And we talked a lot about Raise Your Voice with Julie, so obviously we have to do an episode on it.
And it's coming very soon.
Yeah, it's coming very soon, so you will get your episode, Julie. Don't worry.
Okay, then we got a bunch of questions about our favorite movies and shows. The first one is, what was your favorite movie as a kid versus your favorite movie now?
I was thinking about this question, and I think as a kid, I really liked A Bug's Life. As a teenager, I think my tastes are actually still the exact same. Like as a teenager, I loved Juno, and Juno is still one of my top movies. One movie that's really recent that I love so much is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought that was a great movie. I feel like I have a lot of favorites. How about you?
Same. I think that's why we do this. It's so hard to pick. Like, I just feel like whatever I liked a lot most recently just becomes my favorite, and then it like re-slots in.
Exactly.
But as a teen, I was trying to think. I loved How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. That was a big one for me as a teen. So I would say probably that. And then now, same. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once was like one of the most impactful movies I've seen in a really long time. And I also love Booksmart.
Yes.
Booksmart is one of my all-time favorites. I love it. I love it so much. But also, I've seen both of those movies so many times now that it's like hard for me to even say that they're my favorite, because like I don't want to like go run and watch it right now because I've seen it so much. But both of those were top ones for me.
Yeah, I love all of those movies. Also, since we started doing the podcast, I have realized how much I love The Princess Diaries.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It just holds up. I just think it's probably a movie that I've overlooked for a long time, but have always liked, It's always been a movie that I've been like, yeah, I like The Princess Diaries. But now I'm like, oh no, I love that movie. I think it's one of my top.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. That's how I feel, I think, about The Parent Trap and Freaky Friday, too. Like, The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and Princess Diaries, regardless of podcast, I would watch for fun anytime.
Such good comfort movies, all of them.
Yeah.
Shout out Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
For carrying 2 of those. Then we got the question, what do you consider the most formative 3 movies for 2000s girlies?
Maybe I'm interpreting this question wrong, but to me, that means, like, what are the movies that everybody saw? Like, what were the cultural movies, like, everyone was talking about at school that we would always watch at sleepovers? And to me, I feel like that was the Lizzie McGuire movie. It probably was The Princess Diaries. I hadn't thought about that before, but I was also going to say Parent Trap and Freaky Friday. And then maybe 13 Going on 30. I feel like that's also a biggie for a lot of people.
That one was formative for me, I think. Yeah, those are all great ones. I was thinking Legally Blonde.
Oh, that's a big one. Definitely Legally Blonde.
And then I would also say Mean Girls was very formative for us, just as a generation.
Those are all good.
And then I need a third one, though. I think everything you said was really good, but yeah, I think I would probably go with 13 Going on 30 for that one. That's a great question, though. Thank you for asking it. Okay, Megan, what are your favorite shows?
Okay. Daisy Jones and the Six. One of my all-time favorites. Loved. Wednesday. I'm desperately waiting for a second season. I also love Bridgerton. And then I'm a big reality TV girly. Like, I'm getting back into the Bachelor franchise. I was gone for a while, but I'm coming back.
Are you watching The Bachelorette right now?
I am watching The Bachelorette right now. And then I love Love Island and Love is Blind. How about you? Favorite shows? This is hard for us. I feel like we're TV people.
Yeah, I feel like I should have prepped more for these questions, but I'm someone who will say something is my favorite just because it's top of mind.
Totally, same.
I think just whatever I'm like watching in the moment is my current favorite. I know that when Wednesday came out, I think I watched it 3 times. I wanted to name my dog Wednesday. I was so obsessed with it, and I was Wednesday for Halloween. However, you know when time passes and you forget how much you loved something, or you see it so much that you're like, I don't really care about that anymore?
Yep.
That's kind of how I feel about it. My favorite show right now is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I talk about it all the time. I'm probably annoying about it, but I've been doing a rewatch since, I think, last October, and I'm still only on season 5. Still have some ways to go, but it's just a show that really holds up, and it's just really well written. And for me to be 5 seasons in and still think that it's going really well and that it's really good says a lot.
Huge, yeah.
Highly recommend.
I feel like you were also super hype about The Last of Us.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I love The Last of Us. When the second season comes out, I'm going to be feral. I know this.
I'll have to do a bonus ep on it or something when it comes out.
Yeah. When the next season of Love is Blind comes out, I would love nothing more than to just have like a recap with you. I think it would be so fun.
I would love that. Just a chitty chat about all of our thoughts.
Yeah, it like may not fit our podcast feed, but I feel like it just is what I want to talk about. Whenever Love is Blind comes out, I'm like addicted to it now. I think because of you. I think you got me into it.
It's so good. I would love to know what you guys think about us covering shows. Because I don't think we've quite figured out exactly the best way to do it with our format. I think movies work a little bit easier with the recapping, whereas shows, it's easier to do one episode. But if there are shows that you guys want us to talk about, even if it's like a shorter episode just with our thoughts and like the cast, I would love to do that. So I would love to know what you guys think.
Yeah, and we have covered a few shows, like The Summer I Turned Pretty. I definitely want to cover season 3 when it comes out next year.
Same.
I will be so excited. But yeah, it is kind of hard because you're like, do I do the entire season in one episode? Do we only cover the first episode of the season?
The series. I mean, we have ones like, our next question is going to reference this, but we did the Vampire Diaries last year. We just covered, I think, one episode of it, but that's a whole world, you know?
Yeah. So speaking of the Vampire Diaries, our next question is, have you seen the originals? Loved your Vampire Diaries podcast.
Thank you so much for saying that. I don't think I have seen the originals, which is surprising because I was deeply, deeply in the Vampire Diaries fandom, like obsessed to a really unhealthy level.
I was on Tumblr all the time, like reblogging things about the Vampire Diaries.
And then I had a re-intro to it when one of my best friends in college, Natalie, and I rewatched the Vampire Diaries in college. It was, I think, later seasons were still airing, but we went back to the beginning, deeply went into a hole into it and loved it. So I'm surprised I don't think I've seen the originals. I know of the cast, so I must have probably seen a handful of episodes, but I never like watched it through, you know?
That's how I feel. I'm wondering if I even started the first episode or because I never finished the Vampire Diaries, if I didn't want to get spoiled on what happened, so I might have just not touched the originals. But I love Claire Holt.
Mm-hmm.
She's amazing.
Love.
Our H2O girl.
Love her. She's one of my favorite Instagram follows. So let us know if you guys want an episode on the originals.
Yeah, you can introduce us to it. All right, you are having a girls' night, no sleep sleepover. What's your 3-movie marathon?
Okay, so many of these I feel like are going to be repeats for me because I'm just thinking of them. Probably The Parent Trap, probably How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or Freaky Friday, or 13 Going on 30. And then one of my all-time favorites that one of my best friends growing up, Caroline, and I always watched at our sleepovers was What to Expect When You're Expecting. Shout out if you guys have seen that movie. I feel like it's niche, but it's so good. It has Anna Kendrick and Elizabeth Banks in it. And I love that movie. And Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one. I think all of those are really good choices. I think my sleepover choices would be Aquamarine. I'm trying to think of what I actually watched at sleepovers. You know what I watched the most at sleepovers was actually the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Because it was a really good, like, fall asleep to this movie.
Yeah.
And I can quote the whole thing, and it's embarrassing. What is my other one?
Princess Diaries.
Princess Diaries is good. John Tucker Must Die is also a good sleepover movie, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to say Easy A was in there, too.
Yeah. Also, I feel like The Notebook. I feel like we watched The Notebook a lot at sleepovers.
What do you think sleepovers are like nowadays, having streaming services instead of like VHS and DVD?
So many options. Although I don't think sleepovers are much of a thing anymore.
I heard that, which makes me really sad.
Yeah, well, it's for a good reason, I feel like, probably.
I'm sure it's for a good reason, but I just remember, like, I have so many fond memories of my sleepover days.
Yeah. My favorite thing, because I was just a little anxious, socially anxious girly, was to do what my mom would call half sleepovers. So you would, like, go stay over till late, but then she would pick me up at, like, 11.
Love it.
Yeah.
I was the annoying person at the sleepover who was like, we're going to pull an all-nighter. And then I was the only one who would actually do it.
Yeah, I was always the first person to sleep every time. Like, put on a movie, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But I do remember, I remember when you would have someone sleep over at your house, you would, like, go to Redbox or Blockbuster and rent a movie,
Yes.
And you would get to pick it out. Nowadays, it's like, how do you pick out a movie? Like, we've even had trouble picking out a movie just for us to watch together.
I know, because there's so many choices.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What's one sequel or remake of a 90s or 2000s film that you feel was unnecessary?
Ooh. Honestly, a lot of them. Not the sequels, but the remakes. Like, we're getting a lot of this is actually probably rude because I'm going to say this about a few movies and I haven't seen the remakes, which is probably why I feel this way. But
which is fair.
How they redid The Jungle Book, they redid The Lion King, Willy Wonka. It just sort of feels like, what are we doing, guys? I want the new. But also, I love a sequel, so I'm not really one to talk.
Yeah, but I get that. I have a hot take one, and that's Mean Girls.
That was the first thing that came to my mind, but I didn't want to say it.
I really enjoyed the musical movie. I was so hype about it. I don't know that it was necessary.
Agreed.
I think it was kind of like a money grab, and I think that's what like a lot of things are these days. I think Hocus Pocus 2, I don't think you've seen it yet, have you?
Nope.
I think they did a good job of appealing to the nostalgia of the first movie. Still unnecessary, though. I think most remakes are unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Or sequels.
We say that, but then we're also like, but I really wanted the Lizzie McGuire show to come back.
I know. Or like, I really enjoyed the iCarly reboot. So I'm just nostalgic. I love all of this stuff, but it's not exactly necessary, I guess.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, what can a sequel or remake do to redeem a poorly aged movie without being cringe?
That's a good question, too. I'm trying to think of an example of a poorly aged movie that was remade.
I think The Devil Wears Prada will be a really interesting example. in my opinion, because to me, the, way I would want to see movies and TV shows do it, if it's something that aged poorly, is to fix all of the things that aged poorly, like fix the sexist jokes, fix the talk about weight, etc., or like the, body shaming, and just modernize the story,
And maybe going back to Mean Girls, I think they succeeded in some areas of that, but they really failed in other areas because I think they were trying to just change the original joke to be more modern.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, no, you should have just rewritten the entire scene,
Mm-hmm.
So it almost made it more cringe that it was like they weren't even saying the joke that everybody knows, the quote that everybody knows.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like, remakes, it's hard to do a remake of an iconic movie. Like, I appreciate more so the sequels, like if they're going to bring Legally Blonde back for something else, where it's like the same characters, but it's not being directly compared. I think that makes it a little bit easier.
Do you know one remake that I do really love is Dune?
Yeah.
And I've never seen the original, so I don't know if it aged poorly. I've heard it's kind of cheesy, and I imagine it would be because technology has just gotten so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love when a movie is made so many years after the fact, and it is done just so well.
Yeah, when they really put a lot of effort in to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I also we love Freaky Friday and The Parent Trap, and those are both remakes.
True.
So I think it just depends so much on what's nostalgic to you, what's iconic to you and what you'll miss.
And we consider those movies the originals. I always forget they're remakes.
Me too, yeah. I am excited to see what happens with the Harry Potter show.
Yeah.
Because I was a big fan of the books growing up, still am, and I'm excited. I hope that they do a good job with the show.
Yeah, it kind of worries me when you are touching something that's already pretty modern and already something that people feel like is good, and when you're like going in and trying to remake, it's different if it's like Fantastic Beasts. It's kind of a different story.
Right.
But to remake the current story, I would love a Marauders spinoff. I think that's what we need.
Would love, yes. And maybe that's what they'll do. I mean, they're redoing it on HBO, which did Game of Thrones. So I have hope that it will be great, and then they will be able to spin off different shows similar to Game of Thrones.
Speaking, I do love House of the Dragon. Shout out to that spinoff.
Shout out.
Yeah, I do think we trust HBO with remakes and sequels and that kind of thing. So if anyone's going to do a good job, it's them.
Yep. Okay. Next question is favorite main characters from any movie ever? I would probably say Elle Woods.
Elle Woods is such an iconic character. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
I think for me, one of my favorite characters is Juno. I think she's just so unique. And obviously it's because I love that movie and I have a lot of nostalgic feelings towards that movie. But I really like her character. I like everything she says. And then who's our most hated character in a rom-com? I think we answered the same thing.
It has to be Jon Favreau from Couples Retreat.
Terrible, terrible character. He was the worst.
Hate.
Indeed, very much hate. I do think that there have been a couple of characters in rom-coms, though, that I recall us saying that we really did not like.
Yeah, I know there have been ones.
But he stands out as the top. He's like the king of hate.
I think because we also did that one recently. It just comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. I think another hated character is Paolo in the Lizzie McGuire movie.
Oh, that's such a good one. Hate.
Yeah, I'm sure there are many, many others, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Then we have a few sort of like almost rapid-fire-y, random personal questions. The first one is pets. Do you have pets?
The answer is yes, we do. We actually both got puppies just a few months before we started this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Mine was like a week before. I got mine like a week
before.
Really? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it was brave of us to start a podcast having these needy puppies in the background.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Bold move. We were just up for change last summer.
We were. Lots of like pausing for them to like bark or like make rustly noises or whine or that kind of thing.
Zoom around.
Zoomies, yes. And we used to record in person, so that was always fun.
Mm-hmm. My puppy's name is Stevie. She's a Wheaten Terrier. She is like a year and a half old now. And she is a special girl because she is incontinent. We found out a couple months after we had her. It was a honestly traumatic experience of different vet specialists and surgeries where she has several genetic defects in her urinary tract. So she's a diaper girly and will be forever. But she's very cute. Maybe I'll post a picture of her on the stories or something.
Yeah, she is adorable in her little diapers. She's so cute. Yeah. And she's just the sweetest girl.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
And then my dog's name is Jeni, and she's an Australian Shepherd mix, and she loves Stevie so much.
They're besties. It's very cute.
They are.
Okay, do you prefer silver or gold jewelry on yourselves?
I feel like I used to always be a silver girl until I discovered color analysis. And now I'm a gold girl. Did you know I was going to say this?
Yes, I knew you were going to say that. I also feel similarly. I have been, still am a gold girl, but I'm trying to mix more and do more silver. And I find myself drawn more to silver now that I know that I'm a winter, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Oh, we're opposites. That's so cute. Well, I can give you my silver jewelry and you can...
We can swap. That's a good idea.
What is your favorite travel destination?
So many. I love to travel. It's like my favorite thing. I went to Australia on my honeymoon last year and that was 10 out of 10. So I have to say that probably.
I love that. And you were there for a long time too. You got to make lots of good memories.
Yeah, it was amazing. How about you?
I think for me, it would probably be Thailand. There are so many places that are like really close to my heart, but I used to live in Thailand for a short stint with my fiance Robert, and it's kind of like how our relationship started off, as we both moved to Thailand together. So I think I'll have to go with that. Lots of good memories there.
Love it. Should we also say like a domestic travel destination in the US?
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
I grew up going to the beach at Fripp Island in South Carolina because my grandparents live there, and I love it there. It's like so nostalgic and fun for me, and they have like pickleball and beaches and pools, and it's really fun. So probably there or Disney World. My family is a Disney family, and so we go probably every other year to Disney.
Oh, yeah, those are good ones. I don't know if I have anything like that exactly. I feel like I bounce around the US a lot because my family lives kind of all spread throughout, but Disneyland is a top one for me, for sure. Disneyland, not Disney World, though. That's where we're different.
She's a California girl.
Well, that was so much fun. Thank you guys for asking so many questions.
I know, this was really fun. Like I said, we never get on here and just like talk about us and the podcast and kind of how we got started. So that was really fun. Would love to do this again. Let us know if you guys have more questions or want us to do another episode like this. We would love to.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know because we've been toying with the idea of having a Patreon, a free one, where it's just stuff that doesn't really fit the podcast feed. So Q&As like this, maybe talking about reality TV shows or Sabrina Carpenter's new album, that kind of stuff. We would love to talk about that with you guys, but I know that not everybody who listens to the podcast would be interested. So if you feel like having kind of a different avenue to reach us and start a community over there would be interesting to you, let us know. We'd love to do it.
Well, thank you guys for listening to this very special episode. It's been really fun.
And thank you so much for all of your messages, comments, questions in the past year. It's just been so amazing, and we're so thankful for you.
And we'll talk to you in just a few days.
Bye.
Bye.